The Tasmanian Forest Practices System regulates forest practices on both public and private land. The Forest Practices Act of 1985 and Code of Practice embedded within it are the primary pieces of legislation and policy that underpin this system. Forest practices have a legal definition in the Act and include activities like planting or harvesting forests, as well as building roads or quarries for the purposes of carrying out forest practices. The objective of the Forest Practices System is to achieve sustainable forest management with due care for the environment, whilst taking into account social and economic outcomes. The Forest Practices Code is a practical document that outlines how to conduct forest practices in a way that provides due care to the environment. The Code is legally enforceable under the Forest Practices Act through Forest Practices Plans, or FPPs, which must be prepared in accordance with the Code and associated planning tools. The advisor is one of the planning tools referred to in the Code. The advice in those planning tools is jointly developed using the latest scientific knowledge by the Forest Practices Authority and the Tasmanian Government's Department of Environment. This is to ensure that the advice provided in the planning tools jointly meets the requirements of relevant forestry and threatened species law.
The advisor is a tool that helps users to find the best way to manage threatened species and their habitat when planning forest practices. It's designed to provide tailored, practical instructions for forestry operations that ensures that threatened species and associated habitat is maintained across the landscape over time. It's made up of a series of decision pathways, one for each listed forest-dwelling threatened species. It includes over 500 species. Current scientific and expert knowledge on all of the listed threatened species has been distilled into a series of simple questions that ask the user about the proposed forestry operation. This tool originated in the late 1990s, when it only covered fauna. The tool has now been expanded to include both fauna and flora, and has become the Threatened Species Advisor. So where does the advisor fit into the planning process? It sits in the biodiversity part of the suite of special values assessments that all planners must carry out when planning forest practices. The process for biodiversity special values assessment and planning starts with a desktop evaluation. This is where we get an idea of what biodiversity values we might have on ground in our planning area. The desktop evaluation will give us a list of the species that are or might be in our area and the habitats that those species usually occur in. Our next job is to complete a field survey of the planning area to see if any of those threatened species or their habitats are present. Once we have confirmed that we definitely do or are likely to have habitat for a species in our planning area, the next step is to work out what to do about it using the FPA planning tools. This is where the advisor fits into the process. The advisor is the tool that we and you use to find the management recommendation for a particular operation type for each threatened species. Case-specific management prescriptions are then developed for the plan area from the recommended actions and included in the FPP. These management prescriptions are then implemented during the forestry operation. The implementation of these management prescriptions are monitored through compliance certificates, through the FPA's compliance auditing program, and also in projects undertaken by the FPA's biodiversity program. Monitoring of the effectiveness of management actions is also done through the biodiversity research program to make sure that these recommendations are actually helping the threatened species in the way that we think they are. The results of both of these types of monitoring are used to evaluate the effectiveness of the whole system and to continually improve it.